tune in.
Usually my dad is like the first to comment, like, hey, ladies. He's so cute.
All right, we're in.
Yeah. Carrie always checks the Facebook feed too to make sure.
I know. I always want to make sure like everything is happening according to plan. But it looks like we're live. Looks like people are popping in.
Ooh, I'm gonna go reshare it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
we'll definitely get some live questions now.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get started. To everyone tuning in, thank you for being here. This is We've Got Issues Girl. We are a weekly podcast for women who are curious about politics. My name is Carrie.
And my name is Sky. And I can't believe our guest tonight, y'all. Carissa Smith is the National Women's Vote Director for Joe Biden's presidential campaign. Welcome to the show, Carissa.
Hello. I'm so excited to be here. I'm actually really excited to do a live with you all and join this amazing podcast. So thank you for having me on the eve of the debate.
Oh I know.
So you're in Cleveland right now, right?
No, I'm actually not in Cleveland. I do have a very good Ohio connection. I used to work for Congresswoman Joyce Beatty, but I am of Columbus. She kind of gave me my really first big break in politics, actually. But I'm originally a Jersey girl, so that is where I am right now. I'm home with my family during COVID.
Oh, so you don't even get to go to the debate tonight? What the heck?
I don't. I wish. Right now I'm, in my attic. This has become my new office during this time. But yeah.
So tell us a little about yourself. Tell us like how you got this job, what you do during the campaign.
Yeah, definitely. So pretty much in my role, I'm in charge of mobilizing, organizing, strategy around turning out women to vote. I mean, we know that women are going to be critical this election. We saw what 2018 midterms did. Women showed up in record-breaking numbers. We have always outvoted men when it comes to elections. And so we are expecting that trend to follow, especially this upcoming November 3rd election, which is happening in less than 36 days. Essentially, a part of my job is really coalition building and relational organizing. It is connecting, women to other women, making sure that women know that the Biden-Harris administration have a plan for them, making sure that they know that their voice is going to matter on the ballot more than ever, especially as it relates to the policies. I mean, we've seen just in the last week, one of our sheroes, has gone on. And, it is sad that Justice Ginsburg has left during this time when we, really didn't expect it. But I think this, can add a little bit of passion and ignite to women who want to turn out to vote because of so much that she did for us. And so saying that to say, a lot of my job is focused on making sure that women's issues are elevated, making sure that within the campaign, we are doing strategic organizing to women, making sure that subsets of women, feel engaged with our campaign. That essentially, I would say in Women for Biden, there is not a group of women that hasn't probably heard from us or doesn't feel as though that we have a program, designated to them, whether it's our Moms for Biden group, or whether it's our Latinas con Biden group. We have essentially built out Women in Faith group. Like we have essentially all these different subsets of groups of women that we have organized who are now, hitting the ground running, doing their own phone banks, doing their own text banks. And that is essentially, what I'm banking on is that our, women ambassadors and advocates are going to spread the message, the good message, and evangelize on behalf of Biden-Harris these last couple of weeks to get us over the finish line to beat Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Well, and that's normally what we do, but it's so different this year because all of that work has to be digital, and you really rely on those local validators to get the word out to their own community. Normally, I mean, we were just talking about this the other day. Carrie and I are running a local city council race, and normally we would be in the local Democratic Party headquarters every day with like 6 different organizers from the Biden campaign, with the Ohio Democratic Party people, but like they're only in that office like 4 days a week right now because it's wild. We have to do all this stuff virtually.
Yeah.
What is your job like? I mean, it sounds like you're working from home. So connect with folks. Is it just like Zoom meetings all day?
I guess the question is, are we really working from home or do we live at work at this point? But that's
36 more days.
Right. I think that's kind of the flip here. I was like, I don't think I'm technically working from home at this point. I think I live at work.
Right.
But, all jokes aside, yeah, I mean, I'm sure from you all's experience, this is not something any of us could have expected. I think I was under the impression that we would return to our headquarters office, which was located in Philadelphia. And the fact that like we are never going back. I mean, even tonight, to your point, I probably would have been in Cleveland tonight, but due to the pandemic, due to COVID, there are very strict guidelines to where we as staff cannot be in person. We will be gathering tonight somewhere, probably at some, cheesy bar or something, watching the debate go down or organizing these debate watch parties live from people's and supporters' homes. But, it has been a lot of Zooms. I was telling somebody, I think I'm actually like zoomed out at this point, but instead of zoned out, I'm zoomed out. Yeah. But, essentially it's been a lot of Zoom. But I will say the upside to the digital space has been able to get a lot of people at one time to gather. I think it, has made it much easier to where people don't feel obligated to like leave their house, especially weather changing and things like that. Like I will say there has been consistent attendance, at least for the Women for Biden community, of women who, feel good to, join and be like with other women across the country from the comfort of their home. So I've seen it work, in positive ways. I think though, we have taken into account the digital divide, right? Because not everyone even has access to broadband. Not everyone is on, these devices that we are so addicted to. And so, we've been even intentional about, the literature and what the literature looks like on the ground. What does our mailing, our mail-ins look like, that we are dropping to people's houses. We don't have any door knockers currently, but essentially we are, making sure that we are getting out there digitally and in traditional ways as far as getting literature mailed out to homes, especially in key battleground and expansion states.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So
what did you do for Rep. Beatty when you worked for her?
Yeah, so Congresswoman Beatty, I started off as her press assistant. Yeah, she gave me like my break on Capitol Hill. I had went from intern to her office. And so I would come to Ohio quite a bit. And then I actually worked 2018 midterms in Ohio, but I was stationed in Cincinnati. So I got deployed out through the D trip. And so I was there as a press secretary for like a Midwest region. But I was there. I'm kind of an honorary, I feel like Ohioan at this point. I feel like I've been in Cincy, definitely touched Cleveland a little bit. I got to spend some more time there, but definitely I'm between Columbus and Cincinnati. I have a good view of Ohio, and I learned a lot about the chili in Ohio. How that's a big thing. So.
I'm not originally from Ohio, and that was a very weird thing for me to get a job when I first moved here. But I want to talk a little.
I'm here, born and raised, and it's gross. I just got to say, sorry, Ohio. It's nasty.
Okay, so
the next time you're here, though.
You were here in 2018, and you just mentioned this earlier too about the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Something that's going to hopefully fire up women. I'm fired up. I keep telling my husband that like I feel like when she died, something clicked inside of me. Yeah. I'm just full of rage. I'm like ready to like get this done, right? And I think that women, especially in 2018, also felt fired up for that election because of the Kavanaugh appointment. So you kind of seeing what happened in 2018 and the blue wave and seeing women kind of be fired up about Kavanaugh appointment, can we expect the same thing to happen this year?
Yeah, and I think to your point that you bring up an excellent point of like how much I think many of us were like enraged with the Kavanaugh appointment, Carrie, and just the handling of that and just, what our GOP counterparts did on the other side of the aisle. And so I think, we are going to see that same, I think, passion, or I should say, turning that anger into passion, how people feel about, her passing, even, the type of woman, nomination that they were trying to put up. She is literally against, I think, everything that Justice Ginsburg stood for. And it's just like, I've been seeing a lot of digital campaigns, like, putting out the information of what Justice Ginsburg did for women. Like it's so much broader than the access to, abortion care and reproductive rights. I mean, that is major. Don't get me wrong. I think that that's huge. And that's going to be something that's going to come up, obviously, at this point. But saying it to say that we couldn't even have our own bank account without a man's signature. I couldn't have a mortgage without a man's signature. Like these are all things that Justice Ginsburg did. And it's like, oh, wow. Like, these are like all things that she did for us. And it's interesting, to see that we have lost our champion, kind of our clarion voice, who was, the main person advocating for like, wow, like we deserve equal rights. Like we are more than capable.
Yeah.
Oh, she was a legend.
She really was. I know. And it's just still very sad to me, very, very fresh. But what or how can we talk to women too? But like, what would you tell a woman who is maybe on the fence right now, or maybe considering voting third party? How do we talk to our peers? How do we talk to women to get them fired up to vote, excited to vote, when maybe they're thinking about third party, or maybe they're thinking like, oh, I have to choose between the lesser of two evils. I hear people say that all the time too. Like, how can we communicate to other women how important this moment actually is?
Yeah, well, I think, the first thing I want to point to is that, honestly, I can say that Trump has failed American women. I think his mismanagement of the pandemic has wiped out years of jobs gains for women. It launched us into what people are calling a she-cession, which millions of women are now unemployed, worried about whether they'll be able to feed their families and return to work. It has disproportionately impacted women, especially young women. And those are the things that I think we need to, start talking about more with our friends, is that due to his negligence of not handling this pandemic, he has really put women in a bind. And also, I want to point out that many women during this time were the frontline workers and putting themselves at risk. I've read so many amazing articles, and I'm sure you all have seen it too, that we have been the nurses, we have been the physicians, we have been the grocery store clerk. These are all jobs that you may overlook. We've been the dress driver, we've been the postwoman, that, essentially women are leading in these workforces that, due to his negligence, we are putting our health at risk during this time every day to keep things somewhat functioning for, normal everyday life for us to continue. And so that to me would be the first thing that I would highlight, to my friends or people who are on the fence, is that, can you really say that, this administration has worked and supported women? I know I personally cannot say that. I think that, when I see my friends and I see my family who are, essentially limited and stuck in their homes now, having to balance being, stay-at-home teacher, stay-at-home mom, while still trying to be on your device, especially if you have little ones, having access to childcare, right? It's like all those things have now been diminished. And I do not think that, this administration has supported women in the best way, and this pandemic has, certainly highlighted that.
Yeah.
100%.
Also, I've never heard the term she session, and I love it, and I'm going to start using it all the time.
Yeah.
We all talk about that a lot on the podcast, about how this pandemic has really changed, well, things for everyone, obviously, but things for women when, we thought, a lot of us thought we had it together, and then turns out we don't, if we're losing our jobs and then no longer have health care, or so many women are trying to figure out, do I put my kid in virtual school? Do I put my kid in physical school? What's going to happen to my job if I have to stay home with my kid? And so you're exactly right. We talk about this all the time, and I just want to make sure that everyone out there knows that Biden is the choice for women. He might not have been our perfect choice, right? So that's another question I want to ask you too. We all know he's not the perfect candidate. For some of us, he wasn't even our first choice,
right?
And maybe some of us, worked for other candidates or voted for other candidates in the primary. But tell us why he is the choice for women, and what he and Kamala Harris will do for women.
Yeah, definitely. That's an excellent question. So I just want to say that I think that, Vice President Biden and Senator Harris are going to work for all American women. There is not a doubt in my mind. I think that even his signaling of picking, Senator Harris to add to the ticket was just so groundbreaking and elevating of the progress that he wished to seek, because even them were different on some policy stances. I think that even seeing the more progressive candidates, some of his colleagues, in the Senate who are in the race, come up and support him, and, not just support him, I would say by words, but essentially they have leaned in. They have been connected with our policy team. We have, made, new policy proposals and amended policy proposals due to their help. And I think that to me all signals that he is going to have a very inclusive administration that to me is reflective of America, reflective of America's priorities, and reflective of where, our progressive community would like to see action done. We can't move forward without our progressives, right? And so I think that, for him to be able to, step into this moment and really be open, to his colleagues, for him who, is seen more on the moderate side, I think that just signals a lot about the type of leader that he will be, come after November 3rd and he's elected. I also just want to point out his record on women, which has been really, really, really strong. I mean, one of the things that they are talking about is that, they're really going to build back this economy, better, because it has been so worsened by, President Trump's failure. which we talked about. And, the thing is that we need to get closer to the full inclusion and equality for women. So these are just a few plans that they are proposing is, ensuring that women's issues remain at the forefront of policy efforts. So what does that mean? A perfect example is, a lot of people don't know this, but our policy shop is ran by women. Our national policy director is a woman. Our deputy national policy director is a woman. I've never I worked on Capitol Hill. I have rarely seen that. And I'm sure for you all who are involved in politics as well, have rarely seen that. So for me, I know on day one when I joined this team, I was like, wow, like this is really impressive to have 2 women, leading this department. And, that for me just signals a lot that this policy is being written by women. Of course, I'm biased because I'm like, oh my God, like our women's policy, of course, is going to be good. Like it was written by us and for us. But anyways, saying that to say that even day one is just, amazing to think about that in the White House, we would have women, leading on the policy, which has typically always been an all boys club, and it just changes your lens on, certain things. Sorry.
No, that's awesome. Go ahead.
I get so excited to talk about that. I was like, sorry, did you say something? But I also want to just say that, some of the things that, as well that, they are calling for in this plan is like, helping women navigate work and family. So what does that look like? I mean, think about it when it comes to some of us who may be in the sandwich generation. We have toddlers, but then we have older parents. It is making sure that, health aid care is available to those, making sure that childcare is accessible to those. Those are all things that we don't think about that we as women often take on the brunt of like, oh my God, I'm struggling to take care of my kids who are coming up. And then I'm also having to take care of Grammy. So it's those little things like that of like just having a lens of like a woman, it makes a big difference that sometimes that gets left out. And we are just, often we're just, we just figure it out. Right. But it's one of those things where like from a man's perspective, they're not thinking about like kind of that burden of having a balance between like the sandwich kind of generation that you may be stuck in. I also want to say that it's about expanding access, to higher education and relieving, student loan debt. There's a lot in there as it relates to making sure that we have access to training, making sure that we have equitable opportunities in the workplace, and also making sure that we have, access to equal pay. I mean, that's like the biggest thing. I also want to say that he's going to expand upon the end violence against women. I mean, VAWA has, basically not been renewed, which is shocking. It is, his landmark, legislation that essentially before, the Violence Against Women Act was enacted in 1994, that there wasn't a hotline. It was just something that was kept, in the back burner. Women, partners of domestic violence were taught to essentially get over it. Oh, did you guys lose me?
Yeah, we lost you. We still hear your voice, but we lost your picture.
We lost your picture.
Okay, let me see what's going on.
Well, we can still hear you. So
we can still hear you. And so, for listeners of the podcast, just on,
I'm here. Okay.
There we go.
Okay. I was like, is it me? But you know what? I'm going to just plug in my laptop just to make sure. Because I was like, maybe, but it's not dying yet. But I just want to be extra sure.
It's probably suck it of battery life.
I've also never had that happen before. So Sky and I were just like trying to roll with it. And we were like, where is she? She's gone, but we can still hear her. So
yeah, I thought maybe it was just my computer, but
no, like we're gonna adapt. In this, I've said to myself, I've become like a TV producer. I'm gonna switch my light here. Okay, we're better. We're better.
Podcast in February, and we thought it was, just a podcast, just talking, no video, and then now we slowly moved to doing live videos, which is a little out of our comfort zone, but then also like trying to figure out how to do it ourselves because we have no producer here with us because of COVID. So it's just
I have like 4 naked light bulbs because I don't have any.
I know I had to unplug my light to plug in my computer, but I'm like, okay, as long as I have my computer on, you guys can see me. I would have rolled with it, but I was like, oh my God, I don't think I'm here anymore.
We are problem solvers, folks.
Yeah.
Hashtag elect more women.
Yes, this is what women should lead because we can figure shit out.
Right.
Well, speaking of badass women, we are obsessed with Kamala. I've got my Kamala hoodie on.
Me too.
We win. We love Phenomenal.
Yes.
I love her.
I'll let Nina know.
Nina, we love her.
So what do you think we can see from Senator Harris as a vice president?
Well, I would definitely say that with Senator Harris, I just think she brings such a unique and kind of fresh take to the ticket. She herself is, much younger than Vice President Biden. I mean, I'm sure everyone else thinks that. I know I always hear like Uncle Joe, he's like the old guy, that's typically what I hear. So I think having her like also just brings a different perspective, to kind of tap into like that generational divide. I also would just say that I think that her record is just so strong. She really has always been a ceiling breaker. And so to just see her, have elevate, I think, in such a short amount of time to where she is something that I get excited about, because I know that she is ambitious and we love ambitious women. And so it's right. So, it's just like, okay, like I'm excited that one, let me be clear. I'm also preparing for the debate next week too already.
Well,
like I'm
already going to say, so excited.
So exciting. Yes. But saying that to say, I think she just has like a really strong record when it comes to like working families. Like that is kind of like her bread and butter. She, took on, big banks on behalf of California, like homeowners, and won a $20 billion settlement. It was like the largest settlement of any attorney general in America. When she was district attorney of San Francisco, she prosecuted companies that were stealing workers' wages and not putting workers' safety at first. I think some of the things that, to me really signal how progressive and to me how ambitious she is also that, she fought for California's public employee unions. And she also, has always just stood up for people, the everyday working class people. I mean, I think for herself, she resonates well with that coming from, she always talks about her mom raised her and like, her mom was such a hard worker. And so I just think that her, essentially having that kind of background herself is what's really going to be transformational in the White House, is that, herself coming from like a working class family is going to bring her own experiences to the table to make big decisions for our company because she has such a unique lens.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So inspired. And such a stark difference between her and Mike Pence. I mean, I just can't.
I know.
I cannot wait for her to wipe the floor with him next week.
I think I'm more excited about that debate than I am about tonight's debate. Although, no, I take that back, because tonight's debate, can we talk about this for a second? Because it is pretty exciting with the most recent news that we got about Trump's tax returns, right? So what can we expect from Joe Biden tonight? He's going to go in on that, right? Like he's going to go pretty hard.
Definitely. I don't know if you guys saw, but literally a couple of hours ago, we released Joe Biden's tax returns. We released Senator Harris's tax return. We released Dr. Joe Biden's tax returns. We even released Doug's tax return. So the whole, first and second family have come out swinging out the gate.
I love it.
Kudos to our masterful comms team who essentially did this. But saying that to say that, I think that is going to be kind of, a really big swing that they are going to go after tonight. And, it's ridiculous to see that people are justifying it. I mean, I think I'm just like, there is some type of Kool-Aid that America has been drinking. I mean, when it comes to this candidate, I mean, President Trump, sorry, but it's just so bizarre that like anyone can justify him only paying $750 in taxes. Like,
I can't even wrap my head around justifying this. Like, and it's always been a thing that I have never been able to justify, because people always defend these tax rates on the wealthy as if they are wealthy. And I want to be like, yo, Bill, you make $35,000 a year. You'll never be a billionaire. Like, why are you defending billionaires not paying taxes? Like, why is that your thing? And then now to have them defend not paying any taxes or paying $750 is like, how can you defend that? I'm working my ass off over here, and I pay 30% or whatever. I don't even know what I pay, but I know it's more than $750. I pay more a month in student loans than $750. So like,
I feel like if you really listen to what the truth is, because the New York Times is telling the truth, they have done the research. It just shatters this mirage that he's a good businessman, because he's literally like never made enough money to pay taxes on profit, right? I mean, it's just like, it's such a mind fuck. It's just crazy.
Yeah. And I mean, it just, like I said, I think that it was amazing that this, came out, literally 24 hours, I think, ahead of the debate. I think it has been a really good, way for us to just show like how immoral he is. I also can't help but rack my brain around how Secretary Clinton warned us, right? Like, I think to me, it's kind of deja vu of like, people set out, right? Like, I think that's why we're talking about this. This is why you guys are doing what you're doing with your podcast, of like, people just didn't realize how bad it could get with someone who is just so unjust, someone who's so immorally corrupt. And it's like, y'all, this is how bad it can get. The unemployment rate. I mean, the dog whistles. I mean, how much else?
200,000 people unnecessarily dead. I mean, like.
Yes. I mean, there's another term that people use for people who are negligent like that. And, I'm like, I just don't understand it. I just don't understand how we are here. And I'm like, but still, I mean, it's scary. It's scary. It's scary to think what the next 4 years will be like of the last 4 months of what America has experienced.
Yeah. No,
I'm certainly, not as cocky going into this election as I was in 2016, because I was sure, like there's no way people can vote for this man. There's just no way. And here we are. I think I told Carrie this story the other day. I was on vacation with my mom because my cousin got married the weekend before the election, which that shows you people who don't work on elections get married in election season. So I found my mom crying on the beach the day after the election because she knew that this was the beginning of the end. I mean, that was clear to us.
Yeah.
People who actually listen.
Yeah.
So I do have hope though. I'm not completely hopeless.
Yeah, no, I definitely have hope. Like I still remember like when the results came in, like exactly where I was, like the anger, like going to work the next day. And I just remember like looking around, like I was in DC and I'm like, I can't believe this. Like I was just looking around at random people like, you failed me, because I know like you all failed me. Like, how could you do this to me? How could you?
Oh man.
Gosh.
Yeah.
We have a couple of friends who go on bike rides a lot. This is a fun side story. But so as they're passing houses, they see like, what does their yard look like? What do the people look like in the yard? So they play this game like, did you vote for Trump or not? Still to this day. And it's just like a fun little game you can play.
Yeah.
I know. It's so crazy. I mean,
it's that question, or it's also because 2016, this actually happened. It's sometimes I think like, did they vote for Trump or did they just not vote? Right. Because I feel like that was an option in 2016. I hope it's not an option this year. I hope everyone votes and knows and learns from our mistakes from 2016. Right. But I don't know. What can you give us any insider knowledge? Like, what is it looking like? I know we see the polls and stuff, but like, what? Tell us how you're feeling. Tell us. Give us some like insider tidbits.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, well, this isn't really insider, but I will say the early voting that has been taking place has been, I think, phenomenal. Seriously, like I think what we were seeing in Virginia, I know today early voting has begun in Pennsylvania, and just seeing those people who are lining up, in kind of their protective gear, wearing those face masks and still sitting out their hours, bringing their snacks and waiting in those long lines. Like to me, that gives me hope that like we as like Americans are taking advantage of this system, that we are not sitting out. I would say I feel like I did not see as many longs as last election cycle that I've been seeing lately on the news to early voting. I think that, that has been our biggest push is like vote early, right? Like there's no way, like if you go and vote early, you're not worrying about it, scrambling about it on November 3rd. You're not worrying about having to, essentially, make a plan to call out late for work, all these things we're just saying. So like, please be prepared that this is something that you need to like allocate, designated time for. I think from the inside that, we feel really good. I mean, I say that to say that we ran a campaign from day one. Our path to victory has been built on, we are going to battle for the soul of this nation. And, coincidentally, I don't think that, Vice President Biden knew when he named his campaign this, battle for the soul of the nation, that we would end up literally being in kind of I would say literally a do or die kind of battle for the soul of the nation, right? Like to your point, 200,000 are dead. We see an uptick in the uprising, this summer. I mean, there's so many things that have come to a boiling point, here in America as a country. And I'm looking at the news sometimes and I'm like, wow, this is like right down the street. Like this isn't another like foreign place. This is America. Like this is literally where we are. And I'm like, I know that that's not the country that I grew up in. I know that this is not the country that I have resided in. And I just know, like I said, I don't want this to be the next 4 years of my life. So say that to say that, particularly, we have been the same since day one. We, have basically committed to the people. I think our policies prove that. I think our efforts prove that. I think that polling is showing that we are doing so well because Vice President Biden has been such a consistent public servant. I also want to just say that I think, President Trump's administration to me has sunk himself. I think, let me be clear. I think Secretary Clinton predicted this, but this is what happens when you elect leaders who do not know what they're doing. This is what happens when you elect leaders who are morally corrupt. This is what happens when you elect leaders who do not have the experience to deal with this, right? Like experience does matter as much as, I know there's a lot of jokes out there about, he's old and blah, blah, blah. But the experience part to me, I would go for right now. I would take someone who's been in public service, 40 to 50 plus years, just because, I can bank on that experience is what's going to help and make strategic decisions when it's game time. Game time happened and President Trump has failed. He ignored it. And what happened? We ended up with more filled to the brim. We ended up with hospital workers, who are struggling. I read something so depressing the other day, and I said, I don't think a lot of people are realizing this, but so many of our people in the medical field have been, extremely depressed. And I was reading a story how this particular hospital has saw an uptick in, suicide amongst their medical staff, because they were dealing with such high volume of the COVID. And I said, these are all things that could have been avoided. You know what I'm saying? There had been, to me, strategic leadership. I mean, we're isolated, we're in our house, many of us are unemployed, addiction has gone up, domestic violence has gone up in homes due to this. And like I said, is this the America that we want for the next 4 years?
Ooh.
It's awful.
No, and it's terrifying. And so we have to do something about it. So if you're listening now or if you're watching, make sure you're registered to vote, because in most states you still have time to register. The deadline for Ohio is next week, Monday. Some other states are coming up this week, Friday. So just double check last minute, double check you're registered to vote. What else? Make a plan.
IwillVote.com. Make a plan.
Vote early if you can. Request a mail-in ballot if you can, if you'd rather vote that way. But either way, get it in early. Vote early in person, or get your mail-in ballot in early. Just the sooner the better. We know you've already made your mind up on Biden. Just do it. Just vote. Get it in. Get it over with. That's my plan.
Well, and what can women do specifically to connect with you or your team to get involved with the campaign?
Yeah, you asked an excellent question. And actually, Carrie, before I get into what women can do, I want to just highlight a few more Ohio dates since we're here, voting dates, because voter education is key. Yeah. So like you said, on Monday, on October 5th, yes, that is a deadline to register for in-mail, in person, and online. Also, early vote in your state of Ohio begins Tuesday, October 6th. Also want to say that in-day voting, Tuesday, November 3rd, polls are only open between 6:30 a.m. and 7:30 p.m. So don't show up at 7:20 p.m. Don't show up at 7:30 p.m. Get in line and get there early, because you can expect long lines already. What we are seeing already in other states, I would say do not try to think that you can just get there off of a whim and vote within 15 minutes. That is not going to be the case. Also, I would just flag that to vote by mail, make sure you request your ballot. Your ballot must be requested by October 31st, 2020. So again, even with that, if you are feeling, a little skeptical about the post office mail system, get that in next week. And just say, hey, let me go ahead and request my ballot now, so there are no issues. You can essentially also return your mail-in ballot a couple of ways in the state of Ohio. You can drop it off in person, November 3rd. 2020 at 7:30 p.m. You can postmark in the mail by November 2nd, 2020, and it has to be received by your local election official in the mail by November 13th, 2020. So what did we just say about the post office? Right. Don't wait until November 2nd. That's my recommendation, me personally speaking. Do not wait until the last minute to try and mail it in. Get it in early so there are no issues that they can't say they didn't receive it November 14th. They can't say that they received it November 15th. But those are just some of the key dates I wanted to follow up, Carrie, so everyone listening knows. But to get involved with us, yes, Women for Biden. We are an amazing army, I would say. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter. We have a TikTok. We are engaged. We do events literally every single week. We call them our Weekends of Actions. Kicking off on Thursday, we have a call every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Last week, we were joined by Secretary Clinton, and it was amazing that she joined our call and talked about resilience. And it's free. I just want to be clear that all of these events are free. We're not asking for a donation, but if you feel led to give, by all means. But saying that to say, all of these events we have free. And then it kicks off our Weekend of Actions, where we have a Moms for Biden phone bank. We have Women Empower Hour, we call, which is just our general Women for Biden phone bank. And all of these are trainings, essentially, to train you to know how to phone bank effectively. We have Muslim Women for Biden phone bank, Latinos Biden phone bank. And I also want to just highlight that we have multiple coalitions, because we know we as people are intersectional. So we do have a disability coalition. Oh, am I still here? Okay. Yep. Okay. I saw a little countdown, so I was like, what? I was like, okay, this is the most important part. Okay, but okay. So you can essentially find out about Women for Biden through joebiden.com/women. You can find out about all of our coalitions through joebiden.com/coalitions. And so those are all, like, it lists all the, all the different coalition groups, LGBTQ plus, African Americans for Biden, whichever, you identify with. There is a place for you, labor for Biden, so that is where you can find out all the different groups and ways to get involved these last 36 days.
Cool.
We'll link all that in the show notes too.
Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes in the comments. We also have been doing, for our podcast, we've been doing a 60 days of action. So we've been emailing and posting action items every day. We've included some Joe Biden things, but we'll include more, especially the phone banking and text banking. And we've been doing things for candidates down ballot, in Senate races, lots of different things. And tonight we're hosting our debate watch party. So if you're watching or listening right now and you want to join us later tonight, 9:00, we'll be here on Facebook. And our action item today was through Vote Forward and letter campaign. So like, while you're watching the debate, if you are a multitasker like I am, while you're watching the debate, you can also write letters to voters at the same time to like just
I love that.
On your
That's so smart.
So, that's what we're gonna do tonight. But thank you for being here. Thank you for all the dates, all your input. This is really exciting to have you. We are fired up. We have 35 days. We're ready. I wish the election was tomorrow, honestly, because I'm just ready. Yeah.
I'm ready. I'm ready, Carrie and Skylar. I'm super ready. I'm also just like, okay, like, am I too ready? Laura, I'm like, can brace myself, for the results. Cause I'm like, okay, that's a whole other, thing I have to think of the coping. Yeah. But, I hear you though. I'm fired up and I'm ready. And I think, Carrie, you said it the best of like, can you think that you've done all you can do, during this time? And so I appreciate you all doing these organize and ask, Skylar and Carrie, about, take a moment, take 30 seconds, shoot a text. A lot of it has really just been from me talking to, I would say I come from a conservative, religious, background. So for me, it's just been talking to people like, what is your plan to vote? Simple as that, and kind of opening the door of like, how are you feeling about it? Well, if you don't have a plan, go to iwillvote.com. I have found, that has been kind of a, a really good starter. I think also the kitchen table conversations with your family. I know we are, typically taught not to talk about this at the dinner table, but I think, this election calls for us to, maybe probe a little bit and just, open it up to convince our uncles, to convince our husbands, to convince, our brothers who, maybe swinging the other way of like, why, like really tell me why you feel as though this is the best choice for you and your family. And, just have a really engaging and I would say open conversation.
Yeah. I feel like it's time for like, being conservative and non-confrontational is long over with Black Lives Matter, with these women movements, with this presidential election. Like, I'm just going to make you a little uncomfortable because we need to have this conversation.
Yeah.
Like, better than me. I'm like,
I mean, we started this podcast because I feel like we've talked to so many women for years, and women are like, oh, I'm not really that political. It's like, aren't you though? Because like everything that touches our lives is political. So how are you not a part of this process? Yeah. Like you can't say you're not political and then be upset with any of the processes. Like we have to just insert ourselves into this and become political. There's not enough time anymore.
Yeah. And I mean, I think you raised a good point, Skylar, about like, I've been thinking about like, hey, if you really claim to love me, then you should be voting in the interest of me. If I'm your partner, if I'm your spouse, if I'm your daughter, like do not vote for a man who is going to like take the access, to the access to my rights away. Like really think about what you're doing to me. Like think. So I know sometimes I've done that type of challenging with some male, colleagues and family members.
Yeah.
Powerful.
Yeah. If you really love me, you would not want me to be a handmaid because I will not make a very good handmaid. I don't want to be sent to the mines. I am traumatized by that TV show. And if that's what is coming for us, then I don't want any part of it. So just please vote for Joe Biden. Thank you.
Yeah. Vote Joe Biden.
Please vote for Joe.
Yes, vote for Joe. Well, thank you, Carissa. We won't take up any more of your time because we know you have a very busy job, a very exciting job. So thank you for joining us today. This has been really great. We're happy to meet you. Good luck. We're going to do our
happy
part.
to meet you too.
Yeah.
If I'm in Ohio and we can like see each other socially distant, I will hit you all up.
Yeah. Let us know. Hopefully you can bring Joe and Kamala with you too, because we want them to come to Ohio, but we know that it's COVID, so it's
right. Well, I guess technically you have, you have Biden there tonight, right? Like, but I mean,
That's true.
Yeah. Although Trump has been to Toledo twice already, so just tell Joe that. Just tell Joe, and then maybe
I will. I'll tell him. If he does come, we won't do it. We'll do it very socially distant, and try and keep people safe.
That's a good idea.
We believe in science.
Right. We believe in science.
Yeah, we do. Well, thank you for everybody that tuned in. If you weren't able to join us live, I hope you're listening to us on your podcast app right now. But remember that we are going to host this debate watch party tonight. So SkyNote will be in the comment section. We can vent and chat about the debate if you want to join us on our Facebook page at 9. But as always, this has been a production of Girls Media. This has been We've Got Issues Girl. We'll be back next Tuesday. We have a candidate for township trustee up in Michigan joining us. Her name is Chris. So we're going to learn about her race. And we're really excited to talk to some more candidates in the next, 4 or 5 weeks that we have until the election. So Carissa for joining us. Vote for Biden. We'll see you all later tonight. Thanks for tuning in. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.